review had used. Tired, hollow, pompous, antiquated, devoid of life and conviction. I felt bad when we ran the piece, all the more so because Leonie had consulted me before sending the book out. Was Marcus Down the right reviewer? Why not? I said, half distracted by a picture caption I was writing, but not so distracted that I couldn't foresee the possible outcome. At least Marcus's reviews were long and prominently displayed. That would be my defence if Rob brought it up again, along with the argument, diametrically opposed, that book reviews don't count for much these days. But reviews mattered to Rob, and it was no use pretending that to allocate 1,500 words to his new collection was a mark of respect when 1,200 of those words were devoted to demolishing him. I'd sent a warning email the day before the piece appeared. He didn't reply. That was 6 months ago. When he finally got in touch to suggest lunch, the annual ritual as he called it, I wondered if his purpose was to berate me. Well, I was right that he had an agenda, but not the one I'd been expecting. Far from banishing me to the wilderness, he wanted to anoint me as his disciple. "Do I have to sign anything?" I said. "I just nominate you." "And that's it?" "As far as I know. My solicitor's dealing with the will." "Well, you've made a will." "Haven't you? Got 2 kids, for Christ's sake." "3 soon. Marie's 4 months pregnant." "Well, get a move on, then. That's a lot of dependents. You don't want to leave them in the shit." He didn't offer congratulations, and I didn't tell him that we knew it was a girl. The subject of children, like the subject of Jill, was one we usually skirted around. I can't recall him expressing a particular aversion to kids when we first met, in Brandon, no more so than was average for a determinedly single man, for whom the prospect of getting a woman pregnant was a routine terror, not to be assuaged by her whispering, "Don't bother, I hate the feeling of those things, I'm on the pill." When he returned to England and married Jill in his early 40s, the registry office ceremony taking place on the day his second collection came out, I wondered if they might have children. She was younger than him after all, but nothing happened, and went on not happening. A fertility problem, or a decision jointly arrived at that a life without children suited them best. What with her career in the charity sector and his as a poet needing solitude. We never talked about it, but the latter seemed more likely, given how at ease with his life he seemed and how incurious about my kids to the point of never remembering their gender or names. There are people who say they don't have dogs because they lack the time to look after them properly. I can imagine Rob making a similar case against kids, and Jill, loyal, selfless Jill, going along with it, whatever her true feelings. "I'm serious, Matt. It's irresponsible otherwise. I hope you've taken out life insurance too. You never know. That's why I'm asking you if you'll... Can we talk about something else?" "Last word, promise. If you die before me, I'll do the same for you." "What, get it all out there, the unpublished stories, the abandoned novels, the letters and diaries?" "Exactly. Don't be an idiot, Rob. No one gives a toss about my work. There's nothing to give a toss about." "Well, if you say so," he said, signalling a reminder to the waiter. Where the fuck was our bill? It was touching if he really believed that despite my having a 10 to 6, 5-day-a-week job to do, 2 small children to bring up, and an elderly parent to visit as often as could be managed, I still had the time and energy to write something worthwhile. "My turn," he said, as always, when the bill finally arrived. And, "Give it here, the paper will cover it," I replied, as always, laying my credit card on the plate without even looking at the amount. In the early days, the paper had covered our lunches. Newspapers were more affluent then, and expense claims less closely monitored. Besides, Rob was a name, and wrote the odd review for us, so treating him to lunch seemed appropriate, all the more so since I received a monthly salary and he, for all his renown, was a freelance writer. What's worse, a poet, dependent for his living on the money he scraped together from readings, talks, bits of teaching, and occasional book reviews. We never talked about it. Pride would have prevented him from pleading penury, but these days he probably earned less than ever. If he'd known it was me paying, not the paper, he'd have felt humiliated. But I doubt it occurred to him. The fact that our circulation was in freefall, that 20-odd members of staff had just been laid off, and that those of us remaining had been forced to take a salary cut, none of this would have reached his ears, or his eerie, despite it being widely reported, or if it had, would not have struck him as having any connection with our lunch. "You must write something for us."